Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, we welcome In Flames drummer Tanner Wayne to the podcast. In Flames will release their 14th full-length, Foregone, on February 10th via Nuclear Blast Records. Tanner and I chatted back in September while In Flames was on tour. Tanner talks about how his dad got him into drumming, touring his ass off, how touring and relationships led to him joining In Flames, the new record, and more. This was a super fun chat, and I'm stoked to finally get to share it with you guys. So I hope you enjoy hanging out with Tanner Wayne from In Flames.
Good. I just rushed over from a hotel through the city with my bag, and it's about 20 degrees colder than I anticipated. So it was a fun journey and got all the way over here. If anyone's ever played House of Blues Chicago, you have to find this little underground dungeon that the bus is in, and there's mud and crazy shit, man. All for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. How's tour been going for you guys so far?
It's been good, man. The first portion was definitely exhausting. We played 11 shows in 12 days. And again, maybe that seems like I'm complaining or something like that. But I mean, we play, 18 songs a night. And I warm up for probably an hour and a half. So just a lot of activity. And we haven't done a headliner in months. And definitely, this amount of shows back to back. So I was definitely, I think we all were pretty fried in that first little portion. And now we're getting out of it and having, a little more time to breathe, a day off or two. And but yeah, man, the shows have been good. And everyone seems to be enjoying the new stuff, as well as just generally, coming off the Megadeth Lamb of God tour. It feels like there's, been more people coming out, and it's been good.
That's rad. How is, maybe I'll be ignorant here to the way the band works, but how is getting ready for the tour and rehearsals? Do you guys all have a central location that you meet, or visa's an issue, or?
It depends, it depends what we're coming off. We, for this one, since we started in March, we've had the biggest break we've had is 3 weeks.
Oh man.
So we are I'd say a machine, as if that was some sort of overly confident thing, but we're like an old train, we're still going. We're still going all day, every day. So we didn't even rehearse for this tour. So again, we're not a brand new train. We're not out there flawlessly executing the sets. We are human beings. But yeah, man, we just met up in Boston, and the next day we started tour.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's the process usually like, especially coming off COVID and lockdowns, where it seems like regulations and restrictions are changing daily?
We're lucky enough to have kind of bypassed that. Let me be specific. So on the first leg of the Metal of the Year tour, we ended up not being able to go because of visa issues and whatever else. And I heard that tour was intense, that you had to get tested every day at the venue and masks, and you can't hang with anyone and this and that. And on our portion of Metal Tour of the Year that we ended up going on, it was nothing like that at all. Thankfully. And we're compliant of what we need to be doing as humans to be responsible and all that. But after X amount of years, it just gets really, I don't know, it just hinders your life's enjoyment. You know what I mean? There's just it's just like a bug poking at you, And so, I mean, for us, when we first started this year, it's intense having to do international travel with masks on. For me personally, like it just kind of just gives me anxiety, and it's intense. Meeting at testing centers to test before we go home, and all types of little stuff like that. So there's been, certain X amount of months that were somewhat difficult, I guess. I can't complain too much. But as of now, I mean, it is nothing. It seems, we're back to normal, really. It's funny, like the only airline that still, I'm sure there's a handful of airlines, but the only airline that we fear flying is Lufthansa, because that's the airline that you have to wear a mask on and stuff. And again, I'm not anti-mask or anything like that, but it's just like it's annoying if I'm going to be on a 12-hour flight with a mask and that whole thing, So yeah, other than that, it feels pretty back normal.
Yeah. I did. What was it? January or April? We went to London and we had to still mask on the plane over there. And it's like, I get it, but yeah, it's a long ass time to wear a mask. And then it's like when the meals come out, everybody take their masks off anyways. And you're like, okay, what's the point?
Yeah. Again, when it comes to like, I'm not very like militant when it comes to like that conversation. Like certain people on certain sides are like, I'll comply where it was, but it just got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to take my mask off. And if anyone has a real problem, they can come talk to me. But it's just like, man, I can't breathe. Like,
yeah.
And we're all 2 inches from each other. If someone has COVID, I'm going to get COVID, I'm assuming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, thankfully, unless I fly Lufthansa, I could be wrong. They could have changed by now, but, it's been much better and much more seemingly back to normal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's back up. Wikipedia says you were born in San Diego.
Yes.
What was growing up like for you?
Pretty ideal. We all joke about people who live in San Diego that it's a blessing and a curse. It's like, you're raised there, which is a blessing. It's, absolutely ideal. It's where people vacation. And, my childhood was going to the beach and skateboarding. And, when I really got into skateboarding, all I would do is sit there and watch all the X Games athletes train. And it's just like pretty ridiculously chill and relaxed. And again, it's beach living and all that stuff. And then you get to a point where you're an adult and you need to figure out how to live there, or you have to move the fuck out. And, currently I pay $2,000 a month for a tiny apartment. So, to live in San Diego, you need crazy money. And, it's a funny, like dynamic, duality of like wanting, cause I'll stay there forever. I don't give a shit. I'll live in low income housing, and I'll live in, a homeless shelter if I need to. But, it's very, it's interesting. But again, I'm obsessed with it. I've said it before a million times. It's a blessing and a curse, because also as a touring musician, I didn't experience it for a while, because when I first started touring, I was just so in awe of being able to see the world and yada yada. But now it's like, there's a huge difference between San Diego and Boston, for instance. Yeah. AKA, I went straight to Boston on this tour. Like, it's so ideal for everything, for my vibe, for the weather, for my friends, for my family. So it is a little jarring sometimes going from there to other spots. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've always talked about how it must be nice to be from like, I don't know, the hood of Detroit and being a touring musician, because the rest of the world must just be so rad in comparison. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's definitely times where it's like, dang, like I miss San Diego. It's easier to miss.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. I think touring breeds like this love of your hometown or where you spend your time, and how many people just like stay where they grew up because they've toured and been everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, for me, I will always, I mean, again, that's the good thing too, is like I come home to very relaxed vibes, which is perfect for resting and just coming home from a tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also makes it tough to like, dive back into tour because I'm so used to chilling near the palm trees and the beach and stuff.
Yeah. What got you into drums?
My dad is just an all-around musician. He's been playing in bands probably since he was a teenager. So long story short, it's just, there was always a drum set in my house. And when I was 9, he told me to like jump on the kit, and he just said I had it. He said he was shocked to see that I was just very natural with it. So from there, I mean, obviously as a musician dad, you want to get your kids into music if you can, right? Like that's obviously going to be my dream when I have kids. So let's say, I mean, the earliest drum notes from a teacher that I found is from the year 2000. So I was 12, I guess. And yeah, I mean, from the earliest moment that he could put us in there, I was in drum lessons, and I don't know how often I was going, maybe once a week. And yeah, I mean, it was the perfect storm of like, I mean, at that point as a kid, I was already obsessed with music. I was already like, music was already my complete world. And it was just also the perfect storm of like getting into, your early identity as a teenager and like getting into the music. As you do as a teen, you start finding all the music that you really love. And that just coincided with learning an instrument. And yeah, man, I just started going full on. I was completely hooked. I don't remember one moment from the moment I started playing drums till now. Well, now I'm all sore and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I was completely obsessed with it. I'd be writing drum parts in class. I'd be tapping on my desk so much that I would be getting sent to the principal. Yeah, it was full on drums from, the time I was 9.
Nice. How soon did you start playing in bands?
Pretty much immediately. If anyone played an instrument, we would jam, so I remember writing music probably when I was like 10 with a childhood friend. And then shortly after that, I think like 7th grade, I was in a band with like, not to be crass or intense or disrespectful, but like the 2 kids that seemed to be like the potential school shooters, like AKA all we would play is like Mudvayne, and like they would show me Slipknot videos, like those kind of kids, like so we would we'd play Mudvayne covers and try to play Slipknot. I'm sure that was like the worst sounding fucking thing I could ever think of, is 3 7th graders in my parents' garage that's not like soundproofed, attempting to play Mudvayne. That literally that paints the most uncomfortable picture I could think of. But yeah, immediately just with anyone and everyone, again, since I was so obsessed with it, that's all I talked about. It's all we did is trade CDs and just rave about music. And next thing you know, I started playing in bands a little more serious with friends in high school.
Time to say that you crumble when facing the skies. Count tonight we are singing, about to roll the thoughts of the side. Just say no, suffer and begging for life. No, motherfucker. Oh. Make me wish at the wow and burst on the brain. Am I supposed to reply?
how'd you get connected with Underminded?
I was at my friend's house, and this girl that I knew was dating the bassist, and he came to one of like her parties or whatever. We were all just hanging. Long story short, I just met him there. I have no idea or no memory of how he assumed that I was like a good enough drummer to try out for them. Obviously I'd been in, I don't know, 3 or 4 local bands at that point, but like, I know I can't be that, self-deprecating. Like I was good for the age. Right. But like, I feel like it was pretty ballsy for him to invite me to try out for a band that was already touring. And they were one of my top 5 favorite bands at that point. And long story short, he hit me up, I don't know, let's say on a Tuesday on MySpace, messaged me on MySpace and said, "Hey, do you want to come try out for us on Friday?" And lucky for me, just like with a lot of the gigs I'm offered, like I already knew it. I already knew the majority of the material. So yeah, I don't remember what I told my parents. I just knew, okay, I got to go fucking try out for this band. Met up. According to them, I absolutely blew their mind. Again, I say according to them, so I'm not coming off like some pompous dickhead. But I remember it for sure in this little rehearsal space and just having a lot of fun. I think I was like playing more drums than what they had written and just like what I felt like maybe the song should have had. And yeah, long story short, they were super hyped, and I had to, on the way home, call my dad to try to convince him at age 17 to let me go on tour. And I don't know how long that took. I mean, my parents are so incredible. And again, I say it all the time to my students' parents and all types of people, that like supportive parents is like one of the most crucial things to have as a musician if you're trying to do that for a living. Because if you don't have the support of your parents, there's a lot of things that you're going to struggle with in order to, survive. Like, my dad bought me a drum set and they bought me music lessons and so on and so forth. But yeah, long story short, I arranged for the band to meet with my dad. And my dad is a straight up businessman. So I'm sure he had a million notes and all these things. And he met with them, and they somehow convinced him to let his 17-year-old son bail on high school, kind of like secretly bail on high school and go tour the country.
Mm-hmm.
So that turned into my parents having to have secret meetings with the school in order for them to figure out how in the fuck to let me graduate without actually being there the last 3 or 4 months of school.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So thankfully, shout out whoever my teachers were, because I was a full-on stoner, and I guarantee I was not a good student. And I think like the allure of like touring musician like really sold all my teachers to be down with it. Because again, I was a shitty class clown, C student, so it's kind of insane that they let me secretly pass high school and just be on the road playing hardcore shows and smoking even more weed.
Did you just make a lot of friends during your time with Underminded? Because from there, I mean, you did time with Scary Kids and Under Oath and Chiodos. Like, did you just make a lot of friends and make connections to know people where it was like, oh, this is a good drummer, a cool guy, you should ask him to fill in or play with you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know how to say it without, again, coming off as pompous or whatever, but like my life has been pretty insane thus far, and pretty, everything happens for a reason, whatever you want to say. It's been like, not, I wouldn't say a perfect storm, but like everything has happened in the most insane movie style way. Because, you know, just being able to leave high school was absolutely insane, and being still able to graduate and go on tour with one of my favorite bands. It was still a struggle though. Like the beginning tour years, like, you know, I didn't make a single dime. I don't think I made a single dime until maybe like 5 years into touring. But we toured our asses off, and eventually we got on a tour that was, it was opening was us. And then on the other half of the tour, opening was Pierce the Veil. Pierce the Veil was opening. Let me repeat. And then it was Scary Kids, Scaring Kids, Devil Wears Prada, Emery, and Chiodos. And at this point in time, the only band I haven't played for is Emery, which is like, it was just that perfect tour of just, you know, me and Devil Wears Prada were the same age, and Scary Kids were pretty, like, I think they were like maybe a year older than me. So I ended up just hanging with everyone, you know, like when I can handle it anxiety wise, like I will be a social butterfly and I'll be all over the place. And yeah, man, I mean, from Underminded, I immediately joined Scary Kids into Chiodos. I filled in for Devil Wears Prada last year. It's just like, it was just one of those tours that just kind of set my career off. As well as right after that tour, when I joined Scary Kids, we went on Warped Tour, and I just met even more friends that, you know, I still have to this day. And it was just a perfect couple years of I wouldn't even call it networking, because all we did was just hang around and smoke weed and be kids, you know what I mean? We're in our early 20s. So yeah, it was just the perfect time to like meet all these people, and yeah, friends to this day.
Let's jump ahead. How'd you get connected and end up in Flames?
So same type of thing, you know, like at some point I couldn't find a drum gig, so I started drum teching around 2014. I started with Suicide Silence, and that just led to, and again, you're meeting people 24/7. So Suicide Silence, Cannibal Corpse, Thy Art is Murder, and then into Of Mice and Men and The Weeknd and Miguel and all these people. So when I was teching for Of Mice and Men, we went on this like 3-month tour, which was absolutely exhausting. And the second half of it was us opening for In Flames and Five Finger Death Punch. And we flew out to Norway to start the tour. And long story short, I had never seen In Flames, and I only knew like maybe a song, Take This Life. And when I saw them, I was like blown away. I mean, in any like aspect to see In Flames, it was the most high level, most insane, most production. Is to see them in Scandinavia for the first time. I was super confused because, again, to me, I've only heard one song. I have no idea how big this band is or what they're about. So to watch them live in Scandinavia for the first time in an arena was like, oh shit, this is insane. And yeah, like I was so, you know, when you're on tour with people for 3 months, you end up kind of branching out and hanging with other people just so you don't get burnt out by, you know, your roommates, quote unquote. So I just started hanging with In Flames. I heard them like blasting, like, I don't know, some sort of party music. And I was really confused as to where that was coming from. And I realized it was the Swedish metal band. And they were just like drinking champagne and dancing. It was just like such a, I don't know, just like such a fun environment. So I started hanging with them like a lot. And that was about it. I mean, a couple months later, I got the call to come out and join them.
Yeah. How did the COVID shutdowns impact you guys?
Specifically, we were on like a world tour, and a week into that, we had to like escape. So we didn't get stuck in New Zealand. But I just told the story the other day. We had to go. I got on a plane from LA. I flew from LA to Germany to Russia. Woke up, played a show in Russia, and then I believe that night I didn't sleep at all because of jet lag. And I kept getting so high in my room that by the time I had to get up, I was just stoned and having to go in a train station in Russia. So I'm freaking out. And we get to the train station in, I don't even know, Moscow, let's say, and there's like 200 guys outside the train station with machine guns. It is like the most hectic experience. I'm trying to get on the train. People are pushing me, literally pushing me from behind. Just classic Russian shit. And then we get in the train. There's no air conditioning. It's like 4 hours long. I'm like freaking out. I think at that point, maybe I'd calmed down, but just insane trip, you know, and we get straight to the venue to warm up to play another show. And lucky for us, Russian shows are absolutely insane. So we had a good show, you know, got back to the hotel, slept for, I think 16 hours, woke up at 6 p.m. the next day, went to the airport, flew 14 hours to Dubai, and then flew 8 hours to New Zealand. Got to New Zealand. Next day we woke up and we found out the pandemic's real. We have to fly home right now or we are going to be stuck. So Bryce, our bassist, and I, for some reason, chose to walk around the waterfront of New Zealand and drank white wine all day and talked about how weird things are. And then got on a plane either that day or the next day and went home.
No, man.
But again, how did the pandemic? I mean, it was weird, you know, like just like with everyone, it was uncertainty for X amount of time of like, what the heck's going to go on, how, you know, or like how long is this going to last? Yada, yada. And again, like I will shamelessly say it that like without the help of like unemployment and whatever else help from the government, I have no clue what I would have done because I didn't work, you know, like I did what I could. I did some studio stuff and I did lessons and blah, blah, blah. But like, you know, that really helped me be a human being, or again, I don't know what I would have done. So yeah, I was just home, and that's when I just started doing the drum covers for fun, and fuck, a blur in time, and here we are back on tour.
Well, the new record is called Foregone. It is coming out in February. A lot of people are really stoked on these new songs. Everybody's saying Old in Flames is back. Was there a decision made by the band when you started writing that you wanted to go heavier, more of a classic sound, or was it just kind of natural?
First and foremost, I'm not like a writer. I'm not like a captain of the ship. When it comes to writing, it's always going to be, at least till this point, you know, Bjorn is writing the music, Anders writes his vocals, and obviously they bounce back and forth with each other writing the music. And then we kind of come in after the fact. So when it came to them writing this, they will always deny, respectfully, anyone assuming that we sit in a room and go, okay, you know, everyone doesn't like the soft stuff and I, the Mask and Battles are being resented. from the fans. We have to come back with this heavy old stuff. That's never, ever, ever going to be how they do this. And it's trippy to think that that's, because I get it. Like, a lot of bands do that kind of stuff. Okay, like, guys, what do we think for the new record? Maybe we should go this way. Maybe we should go this way. In all honesty, Bjorn's brain and Bjorn's writing abilities, they ooze Swedish metal. And literally, you put him in front of a computer, he's going to write In Flames music. He doesn't listen to a ton of new music. He doesn't keep up with all the hot bands. He's a classic metal listening human. And, you know, I wish more people were able to see the behind the scenes of how he does it, because he literally just sits down and he writes songs. I don't think there was even a lot of throwaway ideas on this record. It was, he'd sit down, here's this song, here's this song, here's this song. And it was always the most In Flames sounding stuff you could write. So when it came to the general vibe of the record and everything, there was, you know, a vibe of like, hey, let's write heavy shit, but it was never in comparison to what had been going on, or what records had been written prior. But people will hear that it's definitely heavier, but it's no complete abandonment of old records. It's like Anders has been saying recently, it's the perfect ode to the past, but forever present and forever in flames.
Is it weird you've been doing music for so long, is it weird to be in this cycle now where Spotify and digital music is so heavy, where it's like you have pre-sales for vinyl and CD and cassette tapes, but you're also like pushing the digital side of music so heavily?
I think that's like something I like about being mostly just like a musician in this band, and not like a captain, and not like, you know, in charge of everything, because it's so bizarre now, you know, like I don't even know what was around stream wise when I made my last record. Like, obviously I've done a bunch of stuff since Chiodos, but when I released a record with Chiodos in 2010, I believe all there was Apple, iTunes.
Yeah.
So it was very simple. It's like, as time progresses, it's only going to get more convoluted and oversaturated, and I don't know, it's always going to be like seemingly like a desperate money grab at the end of the day, in regards to streaming services and just the way that the business has progressed since. It seems like the top goal is a monetary thing. And again, I'm so lucky that I've been able to have the career I've had, because we say it all the time that like starting as a new band right now would be an absolute nightmare. Because again, the filters that you have to go through and everything that you have to do as a band is so much more in depth and intense, and just, it's all over the place compared to where we started with this stuff. But yeah, again, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with most of it. I'm you know, I like with all the streaming stuff, and, you know, now multiple singles are released before you even put the record out. And before, it'd be like, what, maybe 2 music videos like on YouTube, and then you put out a record. So yeah, I like, it's nice to just mostly just like focus on becoming a better musician, and just like being hyped to release a record that I'm on, you know.
You guys are touring your asses off from now until mid-December, basically. That takes up your year. What is the plan in the new year when the record releases?
When the record releases, we are going to take a break for 2 years, and we're going to delete all our socials, and we are going to not tour at all, and just kind of flip the script and just see what people say. You know, we're not going to do any interviews. We're just going to let the music speak for ourselves, and we're going to go hide in a cave somewhere. That'd be sick if that was possible. No, no, we're gonna tour our asses off. Yeah, that's it. We're gonna put out the record and we're going to go tour our asses off. And I'm super stoked. This is the first, again, like album I'm gonna be able to tour and play. That is like not mine, but you know what I mean? I'm so on this record. Like, you know, I'm on obviously I did the whole record and again, I haven't been a part of a record in a long time. So I'm really hyped to start playing more new songs live and just have like a different type of drive and passion and pride behind being in this band and behind touring on this album. Cause I'm really, really stoked. I mean, the songs that we've released so far are not even in my top 5 of my favorite songs on the record. And again, that's what's so interesting about what we've released thus far and what people are assuming that the record's going to be. It's, you know, my favorite song is like a ballad song. Like, you know, like people hear what we've released and they think that every song is going to have blast beats and that it's going to be some Cannibal Corpse record. And it's just like, man, like, first and foremost, just let it happen and get the record and have fun with it. Don't be so freaking serious. And, you know, some fans we meet, they're so intense about it all. You know, it's just like, dude, it's music, it's art. Appreciate it for what it is. If it's not what you wanted, that's fine. Like, I'm a music listener too, and that happens, you know? Mm-hmm. But I'm really hyped for people to hear this record. Cause again, as I've said, or maybe I haven't yet. I mean, the guys really let me fly on this record. And I'm really hyped with what I recorded and what I was able to do to kind of stray away from like classic metal sounding stuff. And, you know, I was able to put a lot of my flavor on it.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I that word.